Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our Earth Day special here, April 22nd, 2021. And very honored today to have a special guest, Ginny Colling, who's been a lifelong environmentalist. And she lives here in Scugog, and we're very lucky to have her among us. And so we're going to chat today and get her tidbits of advice and that sort of stuff on how we can live a better green life and some of the changes that we can look forward going ahead with municipalities and governments, all that sort of stuff. So, Ginny, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's great, a great Earth Day activity.
Very good, very good. So, why don't we start? Why don't you give us a bit of your background, some of your how you got to where you are today, and some of your passions, I guess.
Okay, all right. I was at one time a reporter and then worked in public relations in Alberta, moved back to my home province, Ontario, Beach Journal PR at Durham College for almost 30 years. And when I retired, I needed something to do. And I had, as you say, a long time interest in the environment and climate in particular in the last 20, 25 years. And when I retired, I didn't have connections. And I read about some training that you could take through the Climate Reality Project in the US. And it's actually a group organized by Al Gore. So I applied thinking, oh, they're not going to take me. 2017, I was trained by Al Gore to do his presentation, have access to all his slides. So that got me into it. I've also worked with the DP UDOT movement. And early on, I don't do as much with them now, but they have been pushing for a number of years for a strong act that gives Canadians the right to a healthy environment. And that was just recently introduced, so that's going somewhere. That's great. I also, more locally, I'm on the Environmental Advisory Committee for the City of the Kawartha Lakes. So that's another activity that I'm involved with on the environment. And just before COVID hit, I attended a nature-based climate solutions summit in Ottawa that really got me thinking about not just that we have to stop putting the emissions up there, but that we have to do everything we can to let nature hold the emissions in the ground or in the plants. So that was a real turning point for me too.
Wow, seems like you never even slowed down after your retirement. You've just been going, go, go, go. That's awesome. So, I mean, obviously climate change is number one here. And if we don't solve that, we're in a really bad bind here. But what are your main concerns with climate change in terms of the main issues right now?
Main issues, I guess, is we have all of the technology, all of the solutions that we need right now to solve this. So the main concern is, are we going to use them fast? Are we going to focus on this, do the job fast enough? That's really, I think, the main thing. We don't need to wait for some new invention. We've got what we need for the most part. So that's a big concern. And I think the other thing too is that, I've been paying attention to what's been happening with the climate for, as I say, 20, 25 years particularly. And back then it was something that was sea levels rising somewhere else or not as close to home, that sort of thing. And now I'm noticing more and more it's in our own backyard. So that I think we all need to pay attention to that. This is a picture of a tick that I took off of my dog Charlie last May. Now, Charlie's an old girl. She's 16 now. She was 15 then, and doesn't go much outside of our backyard. So I live north of Port Perry. It's the first time we've seen a sign of a tick in our yard, and it's a black-legged tick, the kind that can carry Lyme disease. Now, we did not these kinds of ticks in Durham, say 30 years ago or even less. They were in Point Pelee and Long Point back then, but they've been moving northward. As the climate gets warmer, they can overwinter because our aren't as cold, so they're not dying off. And they can overwinter easier. So we're seeing more and more of them here, and we have more and more cases of Lyme disease in Durham. So that is one sign of it in our backyard. This is a picture of my husband helping a neighbor. My neighbors had to cut down 20 trees the summer of 2019, mostly because of emerald ash borer. And so there's another insect. It's an invasive from somewhere else, and it overwinters now easier. It can survive, and so it's spreading, and it's having a devastating impact on our ash trees. So something else that's bringing climate change into the yard than these invasives. And this one really struck me. I took this picture in my backyard on November the 13th. Now, November just happened to be the warmest November globally ever recorded, warmest November world. But we had about a 1 week stretch in November around here where it was particularly warm. And this poor little tree in my backyard decided it was spring. It started to leaf out and so November 13th, had nice little green leaves. So that's the other thing too. It's disrupting our growing seasons. It's creating sort of long droughts sometimes in the spring, early summer. It's doing those kinds of things. So something that we really need to pay attention to because it is hitting us now here.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ginny. Sometimes you go through life kind of like with blinders on. You don't really see what's going on around you, but those are really good things that you've pointed out right here in our backyard. So what gives you hope? I mean, we see some of these, climate change affecting all kinds of stuff, but there's got to be hope. We always need hope, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. And really pleased that earlier this year, the federal government committed to preserving 25% of our land as natural area and 25% of our oceans to protect that. So we're protecting the natural environment. And we really need to. We need to pay attention to preserving wetlands, forests, and even oceans because they can sequester carbon for us and do so many things for us, really. So, wetlands and forests filter water, they filter toxins, they recharge our aquifers. And I'm at a well, so I'm kind of interested in that. So they do so much. We need to preserve those natural areas. And just at a local level, too. So that gave me hope. And as well, today gives me hope. Earth Day, and there's the Leaders Summit on Climate that Joe Biden called and that our Prime Minister is at. And I just read a few minutes ago that Prime Minister Trudeau has announced a new target for us. So our Paris Accord target was to reduce emissions by 30% by 2030, and our new target is going to fall between 40 and 45%. The U.S. has committed to 50%. So it's a higher standard and needed. Worldwide, we need to reduce emissions by almost half by 2030 if we hope to get to net zero by 2050. And we have to get there. So those kinds of things give me hope. And the other thing, too, is that before, I call it BC, before COVID, that fall, when Australia was an inferno, when the west coast of the US was burned, 7 million people worldwide marched streets in marches to demand climate action. And now we're seeing it. That's good. But 200 of those people marched in a march in Port Perry. And it's just wonderful to see local action and to see that more people are getting in because it's going to take to pay attention, and we have to hold our politicians to account. So that's great. In fact, out of that March in September of 2019, a small group of us decided, well, this can't be a one-off. So we got together and eventually we called ourselves Scugog Climate Action Now. But we were having Friday noon marches every Friday from Reflections Park across from Foodland to Palmer's Park and back. Not huge. Some of us have signs, just to keep the issue in people's minds. And so we were doing that and have been doing that. We were doing it through COVID, except in the heavy duty lockdown periods with masks on. We even have a mask that says Scugog now.
Wow.
And we were social distancing, that sort of thing. We're not meeting now, but I imagine we'll be back at it in the summer.
So do you have any more plans in terms of like plans of action in terms of beyond walks? Do you have anything that you got planned or anything on your agenda to force a few of these issues more politically, I would say?
Okay. Well, just literally before the first lockdown, we were poised to make a presentation to Scugog Council asking them to declare a climate emergency. Ajax had already declared, Whitby had declared, Region of Durham had declared a climate emergency, Canada as a country declared, and over 400 communities in Canada had made that kind of a declaration. And some people say it doesn't mean anything, and perhaps in some places it doesn't. But what it can do in those communities that are taking it seriously is it provides a lens through which they have to view every decision they make. So if we have to make a decision on allowing this development and it has to be wetland, is this the best decision to make? Or is there another place that development could go? You know, that sort of thing. So I think it's important, and I can envision us getting things lighten up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. I think you have to push things on the agenda on the local level politically, because I think otherwise they go off the table quite easily. And they've got a lot on their table, a lot of these local politicians. But I think to make them stop and realize and think about some of these issues at every decision point, I think that would be something really great. So actually, I'm going to go back one screen and let everybody know if they can follow you on this page, like you, get more news. Let's get more people behind Ginny's group here and get on some action. I know a lot of people want to be involved, so if we can do our little bit here to help, let's go for it. Absolutely. So, wow,
that would be okay.
That's
something
awesome.
Else, something else that I didn't mention is that the group, even though we aren't marching now, almost 2 months ago, we joined. A number of us from the group went to Pickering and joined a march there in order to protect the Lower Dufferin Creek wetland from being an Amazon warehouse.
Right, okay.
About 300 people showed up for that march. It was so well handled because everybody was given a color. And so, the blue group had 20 people in it wearing, and they sent off socially distanced, and then maybe the green group, and they had to be with masks. So 5 minutes, they were sent on march. So it was small groups, and they were well spaced and handled, but 300 people showed up. It was so impressive.
Wow, that is impressive.
And Pickering Council has ended up asking for the province to revoke the minister's zoning order that allowed that warehouse, that approved the development of that warehouse. So that's fantastic. It hasn't been moved yet, but looking forward to that happening, I hope.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So with all that you've said there, what can I do locally? What can I do in my own backyard? What can I do at home? What can my neighbors do? What can we do here in Port Perry or Uxbridge to help out here?
Okay, well, I think, number one, we need to think about where we park our votes when there's an election at whatever level. So suss out or check out which politicians are serious about acting on climate and making sure that they get elected so that they can do the work that needs to be done. As I say, we don't have a lot of time. We have to get at this. In our own backyards, for gardeners, it's, some important things that we can do. You've heard about no-till farming, no-till or low-till gardening. That's important. the stuff I learned doing this work is just incredible. But the soil structure and at the very microscopic level holds carbon. So plants absorb carbon, bring it down into the soil. Our soils store carbon. And the more we churn it up, the more that carbon gets released back into the air. So low-till, no-till gardening practices and planting native plants. We really have a crisis in terms of being on the cusp of losing some of our plants, like our trilliums, for instance, because some imported species are just running away on us. And I mean, we're as bad as anyone. When we moved in, we're on a steep slope, and we planted all this periwinkle because it holds the soil so well. And it's one of those imported invasives. And now I'm going to be going out and ripping it out like a weed because we're not the trillium seeing. And I was just told by a native plant specialist it's because the periwinkle is choking out our trilliums. We have to get rid of it. And so things like that. So planting native trees and plants feed our insects. We've seen a 45% decline in insects in the last few years, and they feed our birds. So locally, purple martins are insect-eating birds. Port Perry used to be the purple martin capital of Ontario.
That's right. We used to have a sign.
Yeah. There are no purple martins breeding in Scugog right now, none. Or possibly even in Durham. I'm not sure about that, but in Port Perry. And it's certainly the lack of insects has to be part of that. And, I was one of those people that went, ew, insects, but now I'm saying, okay, bring them on. I would look and go, and go, gee, it's so pristine. These leaves are so round and, oval and green, and there's never a chunk out of them. And now I'm learning that's a bad thing because insects haven't evolved with that at a genetic level. They can't digest it. They're not attracted to it. And so they're not eating it. And we don't have the insects to feed our birds. And we also are seeing great declines in bird populations. So everything is connected.
So, okay, so wait a minute. So speaking of feeding, what about feeding our own selves, our human diet, that sort of stuff? I mean, I've read that, it can carry a lot of changes forward. Is that any advice on that?
Absolutely. So, and so I'll put that out there. Certainly, it's for everybody. If on meat day, that can help. Eating more vegetables and vegetables that are grown closer to home, so that we don't have the great emissions from transportation. That's important. Growing your own vegetables if you can. That's absolutely super too. And planning meals so that you only buy what you're going to use that week and there's less waste, because 25 to 30% of the food that we produce doesn't make it from farm or factory to a fork. So that's huge. And once the land, it decomposes and forms methane emissions, and methane is 25% more potent a greenhouse gas than CO2. So we don't want to be doing that. So and it saves us money. Plan your meals, buy only what you can eat in the week or whatever. And it saves you money and it saves the planet at the same time. So a win-win, absolutely great thing to do.
And I think also could save your life. I mean, a plant-based diet has been proven to be a lot more healthier for you and can extend your life as well. So I have to admit, my wife and I, we've been on that path as well. So yeah, good advice there, absolutely. Yeah. Ginny, I just want to kind of wrap it up. I appreciate your time today and all your advice. And this has been great. Maybe we can do this again for the people of Port Perry, Scugog, Uxbridge, and get some more advice out there for people. But I just want to wrap this up today with just a couple more bits. We'll come back to you in a second. But this morning I saw that you speak about soil. This company out of Kelowna, BC. has come out with a machine, if you will, that will create compost within 4 hours once this little bin is full. And so you can then take that compost, put it into your garden, and get it to absorb more CO2, as you said. So and I think the market is ready, because if you look closely here, this group has already raised over $3 million, and there's 29 days left in their campaign. So I think this is going to be a successful product going ahead. And the other thing was interesting today was that Electrify America has allowing people to charge their electric vehicles for free today on Earth Day, and up till tomorrow, 3 p.m., I believe. So if you've got an electric vehicle, and I know that Ginny, you've been driving around with one, so thank you for doing your part here, and that's a great picture of you doing that. So get out there and charge for free today if you can. So anyway, thanks again. This is awesome. Any last words you want to give us here before we go?
Actually, the last thing I'd like to say is, to make a long story, it really depends on us. So if we keep going the way things are going and don't change, the planet's going to be in really horrible shape. It's going to be devastating. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we act fast and act decisively, we can create a better future for our kids, for our grandkids. We can make a greener, more beautiful world that's healthier, that's more sustainable, that serves all beautifully. So I just want to leave that out there. Happy Earth Day.
Beautiful. Thank you. Happy Earth Day, everybody. See you soon. Thanks.